What if Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 7 were actually good? I mean, really, really good. In this 5-part video, we're going to talk about one of the greatest TV shows of all time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but focus on the problems in its final season, and then show how, if we got a do-over, we could fix those issues and make it really great. If you've never watched Buffy before, you might still find this interesting, but I'll warn you, there will be spoilers. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Buffy, the show, not the character, is basically one of the all-time great comic book hero genre stories in TV form. It's got great heroes and villains, most of them with sympathetic and relatable character flaws, mixed in with plenty of action and a great quotable sense of humor. The first 5 seasons, which aired on the WB network, are an almost perfect 100 episodes of TV. I could go on about how my own experience and love for the show has been an important part of my life, but I'll just say that I didn't start watching Buffy when it was airing until Season 6, which is kind of a bummer because Season 6 is pretty much the worst, except for Season 7, which is even worse than that. Why? Once Buffy was brought back to life in the Season 6 premiere, the show spent most of a year making all the characters' lives suck. The musical episode is great, and Dark Willow is cool, but you have to sit through so much doom and gloom to get there. The overall premise of Season 7, that Buffy has to stop the first evil from ending the Slayer line completely, is not bad at all, but Season 7 had to write itself out of 2 big corners of Season 6, namely that Willow was now a murderer, and Spike had tried to sexually assault Buffy before regaining his soul, all while trying to wrap up the entire series in a neat bow. The result was a mess. It stumbled badly, and it has so many problems it's tough for me to rewatch. We don't have time to cover every single problem, but we're going to discuss the 5 biggest ones, 3 that have to do with characters and 2 that have to do with plot, and start talking about how to fix them. Character problem number 1, too many characters. In a nutshell, Season 7 basically has too many characters on the good guy team. The show began as one hero and her 2 friends, plus a mentor and a boyfriend, fighting evil each week. As characters left, they were replaced, but it was carefully done. By Season 7, though, we have our core 4, plus Spike and Anya, plus Andrew, Robin Wood, and Faith, and eventually at least 4 main potential Slayers competing for screen time. That's 13 good guys. This might be fine for a book series, but for a TV show, it's a lot. And to me, it's a problem because characters like Xander, Anya, and Dawn suddenly have very little to do. The first way to fix Season 7 is not necessarily to just cut all the new characters out, but let our main Scoobies have enough to do. And maybe cut a few characters too. Character problem number 2, the first. The classic run of Seasons 2 to 4 of Buffy follow a pretty solid formula in which a villain arrives in the first third of the season who seems like they'll be the big bad, but somewhere in the middle that villain is either killed or just overshadowed by an even bigger threat. In Season 2, it's Spike and Drusilla, superseded by Angelus. In Season 3, it's Mr. Trick, followed by Bad Faith. And in Season 4, it's Professor Walsh, who's killed by Adam. This keeps things interesting, and avoids one main villain doing nothing for most of a season waiting around for the finale. While Season 5 and 6 departed from this formula, Season 7 is kinda all over the place. The first episode shows us both the shape-shifting first evil and its minions, the Bringers, but it's not until episode 9 where we actually find out who they are. And in that same episode, we're introduced to the Ubervamp, who seems like a big threat. He's killed by Buffy only 2 episodes later, however, and then we go 7 more episodes with no corporeal villain until Caleb arrives. You might argue that a brainwashed Spike killing girls counts as a villain during this time, but it's not quite the same thing. So basically we know about the threat of the first, but it spends most of the season hanging back and not attacking the heroes for unknown reasons. In addition, the powers and weaknesses of all the villains are very hard to understand. The Ubervamp is introduced as almost unkillable, but then eventually it can just be killed with a normal stake. Caleb, the priest who arrives in episode 18, has superhuman strength, but it apparently needs to be periodically recharged by the first for reasons never explained. The first evil itself even has problems. If it's a truly universal darkness that can corrupt people, why are there not more people like Caleb helping it out? Why is it relying on Bringers and Ubervamps who seem pretty mindless and incapable of taking directions? And when it's not visible, can it still see and hear what our heroes are doing? And why is it launching its plan now when it's been so long since Buffy last died? We may not be able to fix all of these issues, but we can try to make things a little more logical and consistent. So the second way to fix Season 7 is to give the first and its allies a more carefully timed introduction, explain what Caleb's deal and purpose is, be more consistent about Ubervamps, and most importantly explain the first's master plan and its timing. Character problem number 3 is Spike. Spike is one of the best characters on TV. He's funny, he's impulsive, and yet he's often the most emotionally intelligent character in the room. His arc in Season 5, from enemy to hero, is my favorite character arc and contains my favorite episode of the whole series. Spike getting his soul back in Season 7, though, poses a major challenge. By this time, the audience is very familiar with how souls work in the mythos of Buffy's vampires, and as a plot device, it works wonderfully in Season 2 when a good character that we've gotten to know, Angel, suddenly lets us see a sinister but fun version of them and what happens when their moral compass is stripped away. Angel becomes Angelus, and suddenly it's all eyeliner and leather pants, and it's fun for a while, but in the end, we still cheer when the soul is restored. Unfortunately, this fun writing trick doesn't really work in reverse for a hero like Spike. Spike is flawed, to be sure, but by this point in the series, he's a bona fide hero, despite not having a soul, and he already acts like an irreverent bad boy. So what does it mean when you give that character a soul? The writers didn't seem to know. Other than a few episodes of it driving him crazy in the school basement, and a bit of dialogue later in Lies My Parents Told Me to suggest that he remembers all the evil things he did as a vampire but forgives himself for it, it's like the writers couldn't bring themselves to change this character they liked so much, despite having given him what should have been a game-changing soul. So the third thing I would do to fix Season 7 is to take a big swing and reimagine a new and improved and sold Spike in Season 7. Plot problem number 1 is the rushed ending. This one doesn't need a lot of explanation, but basically the discovery of the scythe and explanation of where it came from is basically a rushed mess near the end of Season 7. It's a massively important plot device, but where did it come from? Why does it contain Slayer power? Who is this guardian woman, and where has she been this whole time? Many of the same questions can be asked about Angel's magic amulet, which literally arrives out of nowhere with no explanation. We're going to try and fix all these unanswered questions. And plot problem number 2 is recovering from Season 6. The last major problem with Season 7 that we have to address is really the 2 problems with how Season 6 sets us up. First, Tara did not have to die. Full stop. One of the frustrating things about Willow and Tara's relationship is that it repeats cycles without long-lasting consequences. In Season 5, Willow and Tara fight about Willow's overuse of magic, but they get back together without confronting the issue. This repeats in Season 6 until once again Tara, in what is meant as a romantic gesture, agrees to get back together without the difficult conversation part. Tara is consistently the more mature of the 2 characters, and we're supposed to root for Tara and Willow, but Willow doesn't really learn from or face consequences of Tara leaving her either of these times. In the Season 6 episode Seeing Red, Tara is shot and dies, preventing any further development of her character or their relationship, and this is what sends Willow spiraling into dark magic. Many have argued more eloquently than I that the writers still could have motivated Dark Willow without actually killing Tara, and that's what we'll do, and we'll explain how in the next video. The second Season 6 problem is Spike's attempted rape of Buffy, and this is even easier to fix because it's just not necessary at all. Buffy's earlier blunt rejection of him in Season 6 ought to be enough to send him on a soul quest to make himself a better man, without the trauma of an attempted rape scene. So we can fix some of Spike's problems in Season 7 by basically skipping over that whole unpleasant incident. Now, how are we going to cheat? I've never been involved in the TV business in any way, but I realize that producing a show has real constraints and rules that the producers have to conform to. Buffy Season 7 needed to have 22 episodes, and all of them approximately 45 minutes long, with certain budgets and sets and contracted actors who could or couldn't be used in certain ways. But at the same time, the rules and format of television have changed since 2003, and it's hard to say what's possible and impossible anymore. And so in writing this do-over of Buffy Season 7 in the present day, we're going to basically ignore all of those real-world obstacles that I realized the writers in 2002 couldn't ignore. We'll reduce the number of episodes, won't worry about the length of episodes, we'll use or invent any locations that we want, and most importantly, we'll use old and new characters however we want, regardless of what their actors' contracts might have allowed at the time. So now that we've identified the major problems with Season 7 as a whole, the next videos in this series are going to take you step by step, episode by episode, and show just how we could make Season 7 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer actually really good and a worthy finale to this amazing TV series. In Part 2, we'll talk about some of the characters in more depth, and then we'll start back in Season 6 and describe exactly how we're going to keep Tara alive, let somebody else die in her place, and keep Spike from raping anybody so that Season 7 can start off on the right foot. We'll then cover the first 4 episodes of a new Season 7 with more Kit and Carlos, a new face of the first, and a brand new Spike with Soul. In Part 3, we'll bring Willow, Spike, and Jonathan back to Sunnydale, reveal Caleb as the early season villain, meet our first potentials, remove Spike's chip, and finally establish an in-universe explanation of how the Slayer line works and why the First has launched its plan now. In part 4, we'll say a final goodbye to Anya, we'll add some more vampires back into Buffy the Vampire Slayer, finish up dealing with Spike's trigger, and give Giles a real hero moment while we transition from Caleb to the Uber Vamps. Finally, in part 5, it'll be time for Faith to show up along with cameos from some other old friends. We'll keep Buffy from getting thrown out of her own house alone. We'll give a satisfying explanation of what the Scythe is and how it could give Buffy a life she's always wanted. And we'll tweak the final battle just enough so that everything makes a little more sense. If you're ready for all that, follow us to the next video.